Well then, hi everybody. The last 3 minutes of that was just, I think, the most spine-tingling experience I've had in such a long time in a cinema watching this phenomenal film. So I'm sure, like me, you are all kinds of emotions, slightly exhausted by it as well, because it is so emotional and so powerful. I'm so thrilled to be joined by 6 people who are such an integral and important part of this phenomenal series that you've been lucky to see one part of, and there is lots more to see as well. I'm joined, I'd say give us a round of applause, so please do in the rooms, we'll maybe hear you down here. But I'm joined by director Sam Collins. Great to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations, Sam. Also joined by legendary strikers, Andrew Cole and Dwight Yorke. Thank you for joining me after watching that and being part of it as well. Peter Schmeichel, thank you for being here. Teddy Sheringham, and last by no means least, David Beckham. How are you all feeling after that, by the way? Can I have at least a word from you all on the response to watching that and hearing all your teammates and your leader talk about that? Peter, I'm looking at you first.
It is in many ways. It's quite emotional. This is something that since that day, or since that happened, I've been talking a lot about this. I've been covering, I think, from every angle. I didn't have a clue about how my teammates felt about this. I'm really, really touched about the honesty and opening up and actually telling people how they felt. And in a way, it's giving this. Just watching that and having that from my teammates, it's giving me an extra layer of that performance, which I never thought could be added to it.
Yeah. Andrew, did you want to say something there?
I'm tired. Seriously, I think after watching that, I think I appreciate my teammates even more. You know, because looking at those clips, I think we're brutally honest.
Yeah.
Whatever we're going through, if it's football, mentally, or family impact, or whatever it is, I just think it's phenomenal. It's very, very touching.
It's something that maybe at the time wasn't something that was kind of encouraged or kind of thought of, but now kind of the journey through time of you all having the ability to reflect on it in such a personal and insightful way is such a beautiful gift to fans, but to so many people around the world as well. So thank you on behalf of that, I think. But Sam, I've got to come to you in terms of, putting together this 3 parts of this, and these guys have seen one part tonight, but what was the starting point? Where did you start and with jumping off point to tell these stories?
I think the starting point was what was at stake if Manchester United had lost that game. We knew we had a happy ending. The story's been told many times. The question is, how do you reframe that? If Manchester United lose that game, what's the impact on Alex Ferguson? Does he become Sir Alex Ferguson? What's at stake for each of these individual players along the way? I mean, it's sort of what I hope. I mean, they've all been absolutely incredible. It's a very surreal experience sitting next to them and seeing them reacting like this. I would also say, you said it's a gift for Manchester United fans and for fans and all around the world. I'd hope, given the honesty and the way that they all spoke, which I couldn't have asked for any more, our team couldn't have asked for any more, I hope it's also something for them to take something, as Peter says, that's nice to hear that gives something to you, because really you guys are why we're here.
This just shows you what goes on in professional sportsman's mind, doesn't it? I mean, listening to Giggsy up there, he's won 13 Premier League titles, and still he thinks he's having a bad game. This could be the end of my Man United career if we don't win this tonight. I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, players that have just come in, maybe, but not someone like that. That's how refreshing. And now what Peter's saying, that we're all learning something here tonight, that it's a team sport that we're playing in, but you're all very insecure about your own performance, so you don't let people down.
As well as it being insightful with each other and your teammates as well, Sam, you managed to get this incredibly insightful insight into Sir Alex, in terms of how kind of honest he was about the experience. Was that something that was a learning thing for you and insightful for you guys in terms of seeing that side of the boss, from the different side of him that you were experiencing whilst you were going through it? He's going to answer that. David, I'm looking at you.
I think we all came out of there emotionally drained, because I think, like the lads have just said, there were things that we found out about our teammates that we'd played so many games with and spent so much time with, and we're just finding those moments out of how they felt and what they were going through. And like Ted just said, you know, Giggsy coming on the semi-final of the FA Cup against Arsenal, trying and saying to everybody, you know, just remember what I used to be and what I used to do. And that run that he made was what Giggsy was all about. But he had to remind himself when he was coming onto the pitch, that's what he had to do. But, you know, with the manager, that was his goal, you know, and that was one of my things that I remember from that night. You know, I said it on screen that I walked into the changing room and he was sat there with the European Cup sat between his legs, smiling. And that's what he was all about. The manager was all about, you know, emulating, you know, Samat. And I think that was a massive thing for him, massive thing for the club. But I think one of my favourite parts of that night has to be seeing Sir Bobby in the stands with a tear in his eye. You know, I think the proudness and the excitement that he had for the club that night was special.
Yeah. How did you get him on side, Sam? How did you build up that trust with Sir Alex to be so kind of, you know, insightful?
That's a big question. I mean, I think we just tried to our aim right from the beginning. Can I also just give a quick shout out to the loads of people sitting in that cinema? It's not just me. Massive team effort. So many people put so much time and effort into researching, understanding with all of these guys. What we wanted to try and do was understand what was at stake for each of them individually through that series. And it is, I would say, please watch the other 2 episodes, because your own arcs are weaved through those episodes too. In Barcelona, I think the key was to humanise Sir Alex as best we could, to try and get inside his mind and understand, you know, the first 2 episodes are really about his strength of character, his strength of vision. When he is challenged, he doubles down. You guys would remember that, you know. And so then in Barcelona, he doubles down and it goes wrong. How does he react? And that's the sort of dramatic tension of the whole series is in that.
Yeah. I've got to commend you as well on the music, because it's some great choices music-wise and reflecting kind of what was going on, you know, in this great city as well at that time. And it just, I don't know, it's like another character in there as well, which was. Yeah.
I'll say, you know, our composers, Roger Gula and Rafferty, were brilliant. Editors, Graham Taylor, Alice Powell, Sam Blair, inspired music choices as well. So I'm going to deflect that one to them.
Peter, I've got to pick you up on a line that you say in here, which is kind of, I 2 people came up to me and asked me, you've got to ask Peter. There's a line where I thought you hinted a tiny element of regret at having retired at the end of that season. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously the interview's been done within the last year. So with mature reflection, understanding more about myself, coming away from...
Hey, that must be hard work, that.
Coming away from football and being involved in the daily sort of... being at a club every day. Because what we do as well, in a season like that, we just go from one game to the next, and it's very difficult to reflect a lot. You haven't got that time because you're recovering from a game, you're building up. It's very difficult to analyze, and you don't really, I mean, that I can speak for myself, don't know about you guys, you don't really know where you are mentally in whatever situation you find yourself in. So, as I say, even though Coley doesn't believe me, with mature reflection, I've gone through periods of my life, later life, where I had to have a really seriously hard look at myself. You know, how am I living my life? You know, who am I as a person? And of course, this came up. And so the short of that is that I found out that I was stressed at the time, and I was making decisions with information that I had that wasn't rational, if that makes sense. I didn't have, like a lot of players have today, 5-6 people around them, you know, you could talk to about this every day. I was too proud to go in and speak to the manager about maybe easing up a little bit on games. We're not playing all the cup games. I was too proud. I wanted to play every game. I wanted to be that tough guy. I wanted to be that guy that you could never ever beat, you know? And that catches up with you. So I made that decision, and I know now, looking back, that wasn't the right decision. We should have.
You could have let Raymond go.
I was just about to say.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you imagine Raymond sitting there now?
Yeah. Where is Raymond, by the way?
He's in the Ukraine. He's got a job in the Ukraine. I can say what Peter just said. That is in episode 1. That whole story of your struggle over which is amazing. You spoke so brilliantly.
It really did. And also this wonderful partnership that you both found with each other and stuff. Was it just really lovely to have the opportunity to kind of go back and talk about that and talk about, originally it was kind of like, well, hold on a minute, and then suddenly you found something in each other that just, this spark was found. Was that lovely to go back there and celebrate that, Dwight?
Well, it is. When you look back and on reflection, you never thought about these moments too deeply, and now you kind of retire in time to reflect, and you realize what you have to deal with. You're having Teddy and Ollie and all these fantastic players alongside, and the competition among ourselves was so fierce. And as I said before, with Coley being slightly out of the picture in many respects, to ending up being the partnership that we sort of engage in, and that, I think that was by a stroke of luck in some ways. But it was something different between me and Coley, and I mentioned it in the actual episode, that brother love. It's unique. You don't often find that connection with someone that that is on the same wavelength as we were, and it was easy to integrate that in so many ways because we had so many fantastic players in these areas to play, and the manager allowed us to go and express ourselves. You don't get that too many times in football, and we played a long time. We had a long career, all of us. But when those magical moments happens, it's very special, and it was a special time.
Yeah. David, for you, what was the thing that kind of surprised you the most from, either your teammates or that kind of was revealed through this episode? Was there something that surprised you about a reaction or a response to something, do you think, or...?
Nothing really surprised me because I think that we knew each other so well, and we always believed in each other, and we always believed in what the manager was teaching us, and we always believed there's a reason why we were at this club, and the destiny was down to us at the end of the day. I think that there was moments throughout that season where we probably doubted that it was going to be, a treble-winning season, especially the first part of the season. It wasn't until after Christmas that we went on that 33-game winning run and ended the way we did. But in all honesty, there were so many moments throughout that season that, were special moments. There's not many football players that go through those range of emotions, and I think that we were so lucky to live through, last-minute goals and, winning games the way we did. And, like I said up on the screen, that feeling, not many people get that feeling.
Has anything ever come close to it? No?
I think that's the high you're always trying to get, but you've hit that ceiling, you can't bring it back.
Until tonight.
Yeah.
The trust that the manager had in us as well.
Yeah.
The fact that he's up there now saying, the trust, he believed in us, even when he had Steve McLaren turning around and saying, what are we going to do next? The stubbornness of the manager is what makes him great, and I think that's why we were as successful as we were, because he knew what he was doing and he believed in it.
That was a great line when Steve said to him when we got back to 1-1, what should we do? And he went, sit down, this game ain't over.
Isn't that amazing?
The foresight of the man is amazing. I was just going to touch on Yorke and Coley about how well they played throughout the season. And I remember him saying to me, I was fighting hard to get back in the team, couldn't get back in. He had a couple of injuries. And he said to me around early February, don't get yourself fit for the next week. Make sure you're fit for the long run. Because even though the boys are doing fantastic at the moment, we're going to need everybody in our squad, because I think it's going to be a big season. And he knew that in February,
Yeah.
So
wow.
For him to have that foresight,
yeah,
and then still know it a minute into the last 3 minutes of the game, saying, "Oh, we're going to win this." Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
One thing that I hadn't really appreciated that I think comes out of the film, there's so many great things that come out of the film, is the kind of loneliness of a manager in a way as well. You know, we get all these wonderful personal stories and arcs of the players and the team and stuff, but there is an element as the manager that is quite lonely, you know, in terms of sometimes it's just him, sometimes it's just, you don't agree? Go on, talk to me about it.
I'm not sure that's the truth. I mean, I think one of the things he did really, really well was to keep the club and all the players, I'm not just talking about the first team players, I'm talking about reserves and the younger players, keep them tied. I mean, we had a very, very small training ground when this happened. Yeah. We were at the Cliff training ground. It wasn't big, you know, the canteen, everyone was up there, and he would be around people. He would be there, and he would, I mean, if you came in and he wasn't whistling or singing, you stay very well clear of him. If the sound was, you stay clear of him. That didn't happen too often. But he's a very he's a sociable guy. He loves to talk with his players, with the coaching staff, and I never had the sense that he was lonely.
I was getting the grunt. That means comes here, Yorke, I have something to tell you. So I was in trouble when I got the grunt. You know, so that was me. But I think what just add to what Peter said, who motivates the gaffer? He's the one who motivates us. He's the one who gets us there. He's the one who's calling the shots, who make those tough decisions. But I wonder who motivates him. And I actually asked him that question. He said, would you not like to know? But he didn't tell me, believe it or not. I've actually asked him who motivates him.
Yeah.
And that would be an interesting thing to get out of him eventually, but I didn't manage to get it. But that's, for me, is what gone through my head when he's in those moments. Who's the one he turns for that motivation in the end?
Yeah. Sam, go on.
Well, no, I was just going to say it's interesting because I'd love to hear what you guys say after watching those first two episodes. Because who knew he'd resigned before the start of that season?
That was a huge, like.
I have no idea.
What?
And one of the things that, because our first episode is obviously about the first half of that season when things have not necessarily gone. You've had 2 defeats to Arsenal, the loss to Sheffield Wednesday. Peter, you've announced your retirement.
That was my fault.
Yeah.
Brian Kidd has left.
Yeah, he left. Yeah.
And you know a lot of the players said, look, this is what happens. And the manager would always say, first half of the season doesn't matter, and what matters is how you go after Christmas. We didn't put that in episode 1 because it removes the jeopardy a bit. But I wonder, like, what it would have been like to be sitting in your office at that point and saying, look, is this a point? We know that he was under a lot of pressure from the board to sort of to turn things around, to prove that 97, 98 had been a blip. And who does he have to talk to at that stage? When things are going wrong, and no one knows, Peter, how you're going to respond. And that the second half of the season you're going to be unbelievable. And that comes down to. I mean, that's my impression. You lived it, I didn't. But
I think we all know what's going to happen in the second half of the season, but nobody knew what was going to happen at the end. I think everybody was confident enough to stay close in the first part, not spend too much energy, and then the second part, because that was my 8th season, and it always happened like that. The first time you win the Premier League, we start with 2 defeats and a draw. We've just lost the championship the year before in 10 days. So we had that kind of experience that we knew it was going to be better in the second half because we never really trained a lot. He wouldn't allow us to train. It was 45-minute sessions, and we wanted to train a lot. So. Brian Kidd cheated a little bit, had us training, and he would be sitting there in his office knocking on the window. He could see the pitch, get them in, and Kidd would go, 2 more minutes, which was like 50, because we wanted to train, but he didn't like that, because he wanted us to preserve energy for the games, and of course, the second half of the season.
Yeah, exactly. It was like one of the gaffer's biggest saying was like, the season doesn't get started till Easter. And like, Gaffer, the season's nearly finished, by the way. But mentally, we got it. We understood it because we know come Easter, there's going to be a lot of points dropped. You've got to win football matches from there on in to win the title. And I think by then we was always in the groove by then. Second half of the season, we always laid it on strong. We were renowned for that. Yeah, we were very strong.
It's also that wonderful ability that you have. You know, it's not just the story of the treble, but there's kind of interwoven history of the club, the Busby Babes, the class of '92. Was the intention for that to all be part of the story, or did it just naturally come through the conversations and the journey that you went on as a filmmaker whilst making it?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
But I think really it was trying to flesh out where the jeopardies for each people were. With the class of '92, I think the thing was that people sort of forget that 97-98 season had gone like it had, and that the noise in the media, to what extent you guys were aware of it is another thing, but the noise in the media was very much, can this team do it without Cantona? Can they do it without Keane? Mm-hmm. You know, and people have to step up, and it felt like this was a cusp moment. Phil talked about it in that Arsenal game, that there was a young core of that team who perhaps needed to show in those moments that they could stand up, and that's, I suppose, that context is what we wanted to give for each facet of the team, if possible.
Before we finish as well, you mentioned Keane. I'd really like to know what was in his speech at the Christmas party that got you all riled up and kind of, if anyone can remember.
I wasn't at the Christmas party.
Not me.
David!
I didn't know that.
Nope, no one remembers.
No.
Funny that.
Yeah.
Must be somewhat good.
Exactly. Listen, personally, it's absolutely extraordinary to get the chance to sit here and talk to you all, you know, having spent so many hours at Old Trafford watching you over the years. My mum and dad were at Barcelona for that game, and it's just extraordinary to be here to talk to you all, but to see this journey of this team through these 3 films is, as I said earlier at the start, it's a beautiful gift to yourselves as well, you know, and I hope you take it as a gift to yourself, because what a wonderful way to celebrate your achievements at this particular moment. And Sam, you've just done the most brilliant job with this, so congratulations.
Well, can I say thank you to the players for speaking so honestly, and I say hope you enjoy the rest of the series and get to watch that last 3 minutes as well.
Yeah, 99 will be streaming on Amazon Prime Video from Friday the 17th of May, so you should all definitely watch it, but you should all definitely watch it as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Have a safe journey home. Thanks a lot.